I'll second it.
And we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes. Financial report.
Yeah, let me go ahead and just say a few words about the financial report. This is our fiscal year 22 final report, although it's not yet audited. So it's at the auditor right now, so some of these numbers may change slightly. But if you look what was in your packet on the very first sheet, it says balance sheet at the top of it. And if you drop down to almost the bottom where it says ending cash balance, you'll see that we ended the year with a cash balance of about $94,000, I'm sorry, $93,657. When we put together our fiscal year 23 budget and approved it just a few weeks ago, we had projected that we were going to end the year at $80,955. So we actually ended the year about $13,000 better than we had in our final budget for next year. So that's good news. The fact that we're starting out this year with about $13,000 more in our cash in our reserve than we had started. And if you flip the page, at the top it says Statement of Account Activities. If you go right to about the middle of the page, it says Total Commission Revenue. You see our final revenue came in at about $212,563. That's about $9,000 stronger than we had in our original budget, and that was all due to higher fees, more fee activity, let's put it that way. And then if you flip the page to the last page and go almost to the bottom where it says Total Expenditures, you can see that our final total expenditures for the year was $198,865. That's about $15,000 less than our original budget. And about $8,000 of that was due to lower salaries and wages because we never hired the temporary person during the summer that we originally budgeted for. About $3,000 less in attorney fees, and that was actually a special money we had set aside in case we wound up getting involved in a particular lawsuit. And then we spent about $3,000 less with Bluegrass ad and our GIS mapping out on our website than what we had originally budgeted. So again, these are our preliminary numbers. They're still being audited, but I don't expect they'll change much, and we'll probably hear back from the auditor within about just the next few weeks.
Are you going to present it again next month? Do we need to present it after this?
Well, the auditor will be here probably next month.
Okay.
I don't think we need it. We're not really, there's a, I don't think so. They're just reporting the status.
Construction sureties. Let's go over that. We have Bull County Industrial Foundation renewing line of credit, submitted on 7/12/22, amount of $523,000, street sewer extension. Nancy Davis, we need to take these one at a time, take a vote.
Done. The only thing that changed on the letter of credits was the Bull County Industrial Foundation. We received that. It was due. We received it, so it's renewed. And then we received a new cash bond with Nancy Davis, but we'll need action on each.
Okay. So, Nancy Davis, accept cash bond submitted 7/22/2022, amount of $47,884, 20% of the $239,420 construction bond estimate for Zero Summit Drive project, authorized chair to sign well contract. So we'll address both of those. Need a motion?
We need a motion individually. We need one for the Bull County
So a
Industrial.
motion on number one, Bull County Industrial Foundation. A motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
And a second. All in favor? Motion passes. Motion number two, Nancy Davis, cash bond. Motion. Got a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Griffin. Commissioner Hammond,
Can I ask for a clarification? That's a motion to approve it and to authorize the chair to sign the contract? Is that
Yes,
both?
sir.
Okay.
All in
Then I-
favor? Motion Subdivision approved.
On our plats, we have quite a few. We've got.
Lisa, are we able to, Lisa, are we able to project those today?
No,
Okay.
no, we won't have any kind of digital. Our first plat, we've got Ronald Lynn and Martha Ann Tucker Russell that have applied for subdivision of a 2.748 acre tract of land. It's known as 2450 Parksville Cross Pike in Boyle County. This plat is creating tract B1, which is 1.55 acre, from the Russell parent tract B and combining the remainder of the parent tract B with other properties of Russell to create the tract C. The property is zoned ag, AGE is the surveyor. The only TRS suggestion was that a utility signature block be included. It's ready for final approval with corrections. I'm assuming we're gonna do a overall motion.
Are any of them not ready for final? Do any of them
They're
require
all
preliminary?
final.
Okay.
No preliminary.
It makes sense then to do an overall motion unless the commission prefers otherwise.
Okay. Second, we have BBN Properties LLC. They've applied for the subdivision of a 1.373 acre tract of land known as 101 Breathitt Avenue in Danville. It is Shelby Green, Section 3, Lot C3. This is a condominium plat that is creating 6 sublots. The parcel is zoned RM3 multifamily residential. Vantage is the surveyor. All TRS suggestions have been completed. The plat is ready for final approval and chair signature.
One question on that. It's noted Danville on the plat, I see, and that's how you announced it.
Danville
but-
address, I believe.
Okay, but it's Junction, but it's to be listed as Danville?
Correct, Danville address?
I'm not certain. It's Shelby Green, but I know it's in the city limits of Junction. You put, I'm not certain, it could be an error, but I would assume we got it right. I just don't know.
Say, I will check that, Henry.
Sure.
We'll mark that for,
I live in Shelby Green, and my address is Danville.
okay, there, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Jody Sharp Construction Company has applied for the subdivision of a 10.264 acre tract known as 0 Hunt Farm Road in Boyle County. The parcel, which is shown as tract E1, is a portion of Joseph Sharp, the parent tract, which is 18.1 acres remaining. And it is zoned R1A, single-family residential. Vantage is the surveyor. TRS made no suggestions. The plat's ready for final approval and chair signatures. Now, that is the initial division of that section. If you go to the next plat, Jody Sharp Construction Company has applied for the subdivision of the 10.264 acre tract known as E1, created by the previous plat. This plat creates Hunt Farm Section 6 and will contain a total of 29 building lots. It's a major plat with improvements that will receive approval today and be held for signature and filing once improvements have been completed. The property is zoned R1A, single-family residential, and Vantage is the surveyor. So it's ready for final approval. Next, we have Bright Family LLC. They've applied for the subdivision of a 10.041 acre tract shown as A. It is known as 3012 Lexington Road, Boyle County. Created from Bright Family Farms Parcel 1. It leaves 147.879 acres remaining in that parcel. The plat also creates an easement for the benefit of Tract A. The property is zoned ag, agricultural. Vantage is the surveyor. All corrections have been completed, and the plat is ready for final approval and chair signature. Next, we have Danville Host LLC. They have applied for the subdivision of a 3.096 acre tract of land known as Bypass Center, Section 2, Lots 8 and 9. It's located at 0 Shannon Way, Danville. That is over by Cattleman's. The property is zoned highway business. Vantage is the surveyor. TRS made no suggestions for the plat. The plat's ready for final approval and chair signature. Next, we have Diana L. Turner, Revocable Trust, has applied for the subdivision of a 0.566 acre tract of land known as 109 Colonial Way, Danville. This plat creates Lot 13A from Lot 13 of Williamsburg Green, Rolling Meadows, Section 6, and combines said Lot 13A with Lot 11. The property is zoned R1A. Wilmot is a surveyor. All corrections have been made. The plat's ready for final approval and chair signature today. Next, we have Michael Lynch has applied for the subdivision of a 2.77 acre tract shown as B, and it is known as 360 Tibbs Lane and 2075 Waterworks Road in Boyle County. This plat creates tract A3 from Lynch and combines it with the Hill property to create tract B. The property is zoned Ag. Vantage is the surveyor. The plat is ready for final approval and chair signature. And lastly, we have Lee and Sons LLC. They've applied for the subdivision of a 4.586 acre tract of land known as 101 Vauxhall Avenue, Danville. The lot is zoned IBD. AGE is the surveyor. All TRS corrections suggested were that the signature box for Lincoln County be removed and a signature box be added for the local utilities. The plat is ready for final approval with changes. And this, just for the sake of explanation, this tract is sort of behind Southern States on Lebanon Road. And the only reason they are replatting it is to remove some easements, excessive easements up on it. Uh-huh. Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we accept the subdivision approval as stated.
All in favor of the motion?
Yes, sir.
Now we'll, this is our public hearing. W.B. Holding LLC, filed for zoning map amendment on tract of land, 1.836 acres, located 1605 Mountain Road, agricultural, Preston, Southern, agricultural, life and justice. This time we'll hear petitioners of zone changes. Please introduce yourself and get your address.
My name is Francesco Viola, and this is Matthew Froberger. The address is, the address is, the Keels. Oh, okay, it's 14777 Keel Street, Plymouth, Michigan, 48170. So we're coming before you for a zone change. When we went out there to stake the property to build our distillery, we realized that we hadn't asked for enough property. We were staking on part of our agriculture property. And so we realized that we needed another 2.8 acres to so that we could build our project. It's, there's topography, and if we build it where we have it rezoned, it'll be kind of down in a hole, and we need to like bring it forward a little bit more, which would then have it be more majestic and have it sit a little bit higher up. And it'd be important for us to have this location with how the topography and the land is situated. So that's why we're here. And I'm here for questions, if there's anything you have questions. So it's a necessary zone changed that's in line with the flume, the zoning map and the future land use map. You can speak to it. So what we have is we have 2.8 acres is partially where we're going to be building our distillery, and it's going to be on the property that was rezoned last year, and it just needs to come out just a little bit onto our agriculture property. So if,
And you said it need to be relocated because of a depression?
yeah, there's a hill, and if we build it so if you look at the power lines, those are the green arrows there, or like the green lines. If we build it where you see, I see them looking at it. You guys have this, right?
Yeah.
So if we build it where the power lines are, where it kind of goes diagonal in that corner on over to where it says E, it's just kind of down in a valley. And if we bring it up closer to the old home right there, it's going to be more on a hill, and it'll look better. If it's down in a valley, it's not going to look right. It needs to be brought up, and it just makes sense to bring it forward to about 100 to 200 feet.
For reference on positioning, because I travel Route 52 and look in, there's a gate there that gives me a perspective right kind of across from the blacktop area. Where's this plot of ground is? Is it straight out there? The old house is out there somewhere.
Yeah, so
Are
if
you
you,
intersecting it?
it'll be, the old house will still be there. It'll be like a Tetris piece, almost. So the distillery will be kind of beside it. And then it'll be like here, the house will be here, and then it'll go this way, and then that way.
Yeah, so this rectangle is still part of, it's not actually intersecting the old stone. The
No.
only thing there left is the chimney, of course.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and the house will still be where it's at.
Still where it's at.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get a feel for on here, is where that was. Because that's very near the center of the property that you have, of what you're dealing with. Well, in the city.
Yeah.
Center of the city.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of property outside that in the county to the east. There's an arrangement on there. So that's really what you're doing, is moving that section on. So is there any, you access this whole industry from the west side of the side road, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
From that. So we're not changing any of the major entrances or exits off of the property itself.
That's correct.
And a lot of that ground will still remain agricultural at some point.
And the other, so like part of moving it forward too, it lessens what we have to take away from our agriculture side of things. We want to do minimal development because we want to still farm our property and keep it an active farm. Once we build a distillery, we need all the grains we can get, and our farm we have high yields there, so we don't really want to destroy too much of our ag property.
This helps you avoid a lot of bulldozers, so to speak. of trying to move dirt around.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's one of the advantages I see.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
I'm trying to think how, because it's got pretty contours, and as you guys know, it's really very nicely maintained today. Love where since you guys have it.
Thank
And
you.
it looks nice, and you're right, that ground is very productive in the agricultural side. So
Yep,
it's a big item on there.
thank you.
Mr. Viola, I have a question that I think follows up on Mr. Collier's discussion of siding. This is for you or your engineer. Will there be replatting involved in this? Are you going to cut off the rezone piece if we grant rezoning and attach it to the prior industrial piece? Or is it currently all one property? I can't really tell from this.
it's all one property, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Kendall Wise from Vantage Engineering, but yes, there are multiple large tracts, farmland tracts, and this zone boundary is totally irrelevant to the property lines.
Okay.
It is in space, it's not on a property line. In the future, we may create a plat that sets aside, the distillery operation from the farmland operations.
But that's not part of
That's
your
yet
current
to
plan?
come, yeah.
Okay.
But it's just in space. I mean, these zone boundaries just are the zone boundaries that are needed to help Francesco build what he's wanting to build.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, because where I was leading to, really not changing any other paperwork that I know of. This is another section, that area, and it doesn't, the entrance and exit to the properties don't change.
No.
It's so far from Route 52 or even from East Main Street, which is the north side area, hard to see.
It merely extends the line from
Yeah.
the zone change boundary that you guys granted back in August of last year.
Yeah.
We just missed it by, when they went out to actually stake it, just figured out that there's a little better spot for it, needed an extra, few acres, and it's unfortunate we didn't get it done the first time, but we didn't know at the moment.
And it doesn't intersect the historical character of the property, I don't believe.
No, if anything, it's going to add to it,
Yeah,
because if it goes back, it just won't look right. If it's down in this valley, just
Yeah.
won't look right. And it'll look much better from the road and everywhere else if we can put it a few hundred feet forward. So,
Just as a point of clarification, under your development conditions, where you talk about all buildings shall not exceed 250,000 square feet, and that includes buildings that you would be putting on this new 2 acres. When you had the development conditions a year or so ago, or a couple years ago, when we approved the initial, was that 250,000?
Those are identical to
Those
what
are,
we gave you last
yeah,
year, just
okay.
about.
So you haven't changed the total square footage?
No, everything's the same, we just need to move that line.
Yeah,
That's really all it
okay.
is.
All right.
and the positions of the rick houses you had proposed are really not changing the major houses. This is just, okay.
yeah, the rick houses will line the driveway that we
Yeah.
put in.
Pretty-
And so we'll have the distillery and then the smaller rick houses that the one like the one we just built, we'll have more of those along the driveway.
Okay, the only other question I had is, you're aware that there's large natural gas lines that are not on your property but nearby, just out to the east element? As long as you understand it's there, it's important.
Yeah, if
Kentucky
you-
law requires that nowadays.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you recall, we provided a utility plan with the last rezoning, and we did a geotech study on it, did all of those things.
And this change does not change that at
No.
all?
No.
Mr. Viola, the chair alluded to meeting the burdens of showing that a zone change is necessary. And the argument on your application is that you conform with the comprehensive plan. And it sounds like what you're laying out is that this zone map amendment request is analogous to the previous one that was approved in August of '21 and then subsequently approved. I just want to read into the record the conditions that justify that prior zone map amendment. We said that it complied with the comp plan's goals and objectives, with the general land development objectives of maintaining green space, with its building cap condition, that the change would promote agribusiness, that it complies with the economic development goal of providing a growing, diverse economic base, and I believe that's language you used in your narrative you submitted. It will allow for full employment because of differing complementary businesses proposed that could contribute to healthy job creation, and a tax on stored spirits will be a boon to local tax revenues. And it complies with historic preservation goals by preserving historic fences and other structures on the farm and keeping the farm in its traditional agricultural use. Are you representing that those same justifications support this request today?
Yes.
Okay. And because this mentioned other structures on the farm and preservation, I wonder if you might say a word or two about the house on the property and the status of that.
So we've had many individuals come to us to try to help us, people from, Danville, government, contractors, different people we've worked with. And up until about a week ago, nobody could help us with the house. They all told us that we need to tear it down and then rebuild an exact replica. But we didn't give up. We did, Jess Carell, I don't know if you know who he is. He found somebody for us, and I don't know the name of the company, it slipped my mind, but there's a gentleman that has hope now that we can actually keep the home. He went through the foundation, and the foundation should be strong enough where we might have to take down part, but then we can rebuild what's leaning. So we're hopeful that we can rebuild the home in its exact form. I mean, that's what drew us to the property. That's why we're there. I mean,
And this guy, there'll be enough of it there that we can keep it on the National Registry for Historic Places, because we're not making any significant changes, assuming he can execute the plan that he's laid out.
Is that something you're willing to put into the development conditions?
I don't think we could at this point, because it's so uncertain.
You just said that
we're hopeful. We just got some hope. I mean, the guy.
This is the first yes. We have nothing but no's that said that it can't be saved. And so to condition,
do we have any documentation on that?
we don't have that with this.
I don't
It
know.
just happened within the last 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, it was just recent. I mean, we're hopeful that we can do it. I can't afford to do anything with the house right now. Building a distillery is very expensive. I mean, if you go to any restaurant and ask them to serve food for 7 years and then get paid 7 years later, it's a very hard thing to finance and do. I have no investors. I'm the only one doing it. It's just me. And we're not like other distilleries. I'm building this for me and my family, for the community, and for our customers. So I'm never going to sell the company. It's not going to be something I build and then just unload to make a bunch of money. This is where I want to be. I want to close out the second half of my life here in Danville, and I plan to be moving here in the next couple of years with my family. So this is part of who we are and what we're planning on doing for ourselves and for the community. So this house is important. I've written a song about it. I've gone through a lot to be able to trademark the name, the William Crow Stone House. Jim Beam owns the name Old Crow, and they did not let us trademark the name, but Matt's a very good attorney, and we worked out a compromise, colors that we can't use, certain things we had to put in with the trademark. So the home is, despite what other people may say in the community or some people have said in the past, we have every intention of saving it. That's why we kept fighting, and that's why I met with Jess Carell back in June. And then he was able to bring some people out and help me find somebody. But we're still in the early stages there. And I can't have if there's a condition about fixing the home before being granted the zone change, I have to make some money from distilling so I can pay for this. And it's top of our agenda to do that.
Certainly appreciate your efforts, but I think, as you just said, the house seems to be a large part of the property and what your legacy you want to be on the property. So to make some sort of a commitment to restoring that property, I don't think should be out of the realm of reasonable requests.
I mean, we can,
Well, the problem with that is, we believe we're going to be very successful at distilling, but if you heard Mr. Viola a few minutes ago, that there's no money on it to be made from that house. We need to generate income to be able to build that house. I mean, if the economy crashes or you have a fire at a distillery and we can't distill and you can't make the money to fix the house, and now we've got a condition that we can't meet. That's the issue.
carried concern?
Everything's important, but there's only so much I can do. There's only so much money, so many things we're having a honest discussion here. The truth is, the house is a lot more money to fix than if you just build a 2,500 square foot home or whatever the size square footage of the house is. It's a pretty big deal, and we have spent countless hours. I've spent over $60,000 trying to save the home and to shore it up, with Richard McAllister, with the help of the mayor. I mean, this is 4 or 5 years ago, we did that. Before I even owned the property, I spent this money. I had what do you call that? An option to buy it. So I had an option to buy the property, but I didn't own it, and I still tried to save the house then. And we all worked together on that project, and we did the best we could. But it's a tremendous amount of money. Nobody has been able to come to us. If you want me to tell the truth and say what needs to be said, I'm trying to dance a little bit, but Joni Howes, the mayor, Mike Peros, they've been out there many times, and none of their efforts have helped us in any way. They've tried, they haven't given up. I never gave up, but they came out there, and not one of their contacts was able to save the home. Everyone said that you'd have to tear it down and build an exact replica, which costs millions of dollars to do. And there's really little, when we go to fix the home, it's going to be a showpiece. We'll do something with it, but there's not going to be an income that's really generated from the home other than have it look nice on the property. So we've done everything we could with other people trying to help us, but nothing's come out of it from their efforts until we met Jess Carell, last month, and he brought some people over, and we're hopeful that this guy's going to be able to do something for us, but it's still, too early.
There's some optimism, but we're skeptical just based upon the history of it. We've heard so many times that it's unsafe. There's certain contractors said they wouldn't even take the job because they would never send their people in even to start taking it down because it was,
And Kendall Wise, his team, they did a LiDAR scan, was it last year? I mean, I spent, $10,000 on that to whatever is there. We did a LiDAR scan. They risked their lives to get in there. I mean, I don't know what more effort I can show. I mean, what a LiDAR scan does, and correct me if I'm wrong, it maps out what was there so that when we go to recreate it, if anything crumbles down, we can then build it in its exact form. And so, I mean, we're not showing, our actions don't show that we're trying to destroy the home. We're trying our best.
And to reiterate, we spent a significant amount of money in a dispute with Jim Beam to perfect a trademark of the William Crowe stone house, so that it's central to the plan, but we can't condition the improvement. You can condition approval on improving that thing at any.
Well, I mean, if we make a condition, what's going to happen is I may be lying to you because I might say yes, but then we find out I can't do it.
Jeff, I think one of the things that I've heard come up in our design meetings and things over and over for 2 or 3 years now is what's the definition of restore? I think we've had conversations of how parts and pieces or the look of the house could be incorporated into the look and feel of the whole project. And I think Francesco respects that look and intends to build it into the project. So what does restore mean, and what is that definition, and what kind of strings does it attach to its property if we say we're going to restore the house? And I think it's too much to commit to.
Well, it'd be nice if some of that documentation had been presented to us. It's the first time we're hearing a lot of this. I don't think it would have been hard to put it in the presentation, the tips or efforts.
Well, again, tying that as a condition to the zone change just didn't seem appropriate to me. So that's why when we put this together, as much as it's a part of our plan, and I guess a lot of it is just a lot of it also was meeting out at the property and talking to people, so we would have had to, I don't know, get a court reporter and have a sworn statement from them or an affidavit to say what they've said, but there's been plenty of people with us at all steps of the way to hear what they've said about the house.
I guess I'm just learning right now that's important to be included in the presentation from you. I mean, I know the house is important to the community and to your board here and the city and everything else, but what we're coming here before you is to build a distillery, and that's what we thought was appropriate to present. But I mean, if there's questions about the house, I mean, we're
Distillery, I think, what is, in relation to the house, how close is the distillery going to be to the house in, say, feet?
it's going to be somewhere between around 100 feet, 60 to 100 feet, somewhere in that range. So it'll be very,
Quite close.
very close. Yep.
It'll look like it's part of the distillery is what it'll be, of course.
Right. It's going to
That's
really make sense with the way the distillery, it comes out, you got the house here, it comes out, it dives in, it goes like this,
Right.
and it just makes sense for it to be right there.
Now, the house being it is not part of the construction of the main distillery, you're gonna just ignore that area, the area around the house.
That's
Or
correct.
protect
I
it
mean,
either way.
that's correct. I mean, we're going to ignore it while we're building a distillery, but as soon as we start generating money from the distillery, that's first on our plans. At the same time, we have to build rick houses to store the barrels. We're hoping to generate enough money to then fix the house and build brick houses at the same time. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of money to do what we're doing. It's not cheap. And put everything that I own into this, and everything I make goes back into our property, goes back into our business, goes back into Danville. I mean, we chose to be in Danville. We don't have to be here, but we're in the city limits, and I accepted that being in the city limits is going to be more taxes. I mean, some of our properties in Boyle County, and we could have tried to work in skated around school taxes and different things in the city of Danville. But I like Danville. I want to be part of this community. I wanted to be in the city limits, and that's why we chose to be where we're at. And we fell in love with the property,
You would
too.
still come to this group for the Danville or city limits for the board, that's activity.
Oh, yeah, Boyle County, that's right.
That would not make a difference.
It wouldn't make a difference, right?
And the chairman is absolutely, it's of interest to make sure that we either have a separation on here, which sounds like the right way to do it, but we are interested in the house, we really are, and anticipate that if that's going to change into a commercial or an agricultural or rezoning element, you'll be back to here. Right now, it's agriculture, the house is. That's where you have it sitting on there. And I'm
Right.
not trying to say how you do what you need to do, but you have to sequence those. I appreciate you telling me, for example, a lot of the details of the house. But
Yeah.
I'm like the chair, I don't track what goes on in other conversations, not to that extent.
Okay.
I apologize. I mean, it's just not.
No.
We got enough to do, just like you guys do.
You're right. So
So are we talking years that you might look at this?
So our goal is to have our distillery fully operational June 1st of next year.
Oh, wow,
That's,
quite
and we're working with Rhonda Doss and Justin.
That's our target.
That's our target. I'm pushing. But I mean, we thought we would have broke ground sooner. But this economic climate that we're in, I mean, it takes forever to get anyone to do anything anymore. And the architects and everything, I mean, it just was going so slow that, thank God, Rhonda had a different architect, believe it or not. We ended up dropping the people we were working with because they weren't going to have it complete. We wouldn't be where we're at today until March of next year. So Rhonda found a different architect, Bobby Morris from Lexington, and this guy's sharp. He's awesome. He's done a great job, and he's got it done in like record time. So I mean, we have our equipment ordered, we have things ready to go, but who knows what sort of things we can run into. I mean, it's been a really odd time,
We never know what we don't know. We try to do our best.
right?
May I ask just one other question, sir?
Yes.
You said that you didn't feel comfortable in agreeing that you absolutely would preserve the house. Would you be willing to agree that the intent of this change to light industrial will not intend to take down the house? To destroy the house?
I mean,
That we have no intent to destroy the home?
Yes.
I mean,
of course.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that.
Thank you.
Nope.
That's why we were asking how close it was, along that line.
Yeah, I mean, just full disclosure, I mean, the house is still there. Some people have recommended that before I came here today, they wanted me to tear it down, so there would be no discussion about a house. I'm just telling you the truth.
No.
But I told them no, because I don't want to rebuild the house as a replica. It's not what
you want to say.
I want to save I want to save what we can, and we have not been hopeful up until recently. And I've had a brief conversation with the stonemason last week, and it seems very hopeful. So but it's just in the beginning stages. So I can't really commit to it, because I think I want to believe him. You know, you go on vacation or somewhere, and I don't know, I'm just making something up, and you're just so happy, and you buy something, and you come home and you're like, why'd I buy this? You know, it's the same thing here. I want to believe it so badly that this is going to work, but I can't give you my word, because my word is important, that it's 100%, because it's trusting this.
Hey, I have to, Sally, I was going to ask the same question again that you just stated on here, can we put in the document somewhere, so record shows that the property, doing this expansion of property, adding this 2.8 acres is not part of impacting any activities there, don't impact and damage the house? Is that something you can control from your side?
Well, I mean, we're not builders, but what we've been told so far is where the intention of laying out the distillery is it doesn't impact the home.
Well,
That's
it's your intent to do that, is what that is.
correct. The intent is to
I
preserve.
think we can go back to the first time they ever set foot in here.
Yeah,
They committed to trying to protect that house. They did. They said, our intentions are to do this. We zoned it. Now they're asking for a little bit of, we made an error. We should have zoned a little bit more. I mean, their intent, I think, has been made clear to everybody.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You all, are you finished with your presentation?
Yes.
Thank you.
At this time,
No, it's public comment. Just wait.
at this time, if you are finished with your presentation, we'd like to ask anyone who wants to speak in favor of this map amendment. James, please come forward, state your name.
Everybody should know me, but I'm Earl Robinson, and I got something to say about him preserving the house. Just think, in the last 4 years, how much we have cleaned that property up and made it look more presentable. Driving down 52, looking to the left, is a beautiful sight. And, we mowed around the house, which is dangerous. We have a fence around it with no trespassing sign. But we take and weed eat around it, and we keep it mowed. And he's talked about it and told me what he's going to do for 4 years. And he has always done what he told me he said he would do. And I think it's a great thing that he's going to do, but it takes a lot of money. I know how much money he's paid me to keep the property up, and still does. And he made the access road off Letton Drive, so it will not interfere with the house. And we bought the property he did on the other side of the Stafford farm, and we're starting to clean it up. All this land has been neglected for 50 to 100 years. Junk piled up, overgrown trees, brush, and it's been a lot of work to clean it up, and there's still a lot more work to do. But look what we have changed in 4 years. Just look how much pleasurable it is to look driving down that road, for the community. And we keep the garbage picked up, which people are very disrespectful about throwing it out. We have to pick it up once a week. And that's not very nice of the community to do that. But he wants to keep it looking pristine and nice, and I take a lot of pride in doing that. It means something to me, because people say, Earl, you're taking good care of that. And I just know that he's gonna save that house. And I know how many people had looked at it, and they say, we've got to take it all the way down to the ground, and do this and do that. But how much is it gonna cost? Well, it's gonna be a lot. And, you know, it's just a lot of investment that he's done put into the property. And I think he's got a great plan, and this is not gonna interfere with the house. It's not, you know, nothing with the house, I don't think. And like I said, the old house, I hope it can be saved the way it is, but that house has sat there for hundreds of years, and nobody has took care of it for, you know, 200 years, probably 150. But it's still savable because it's rock. You know, it's all rock. And I just say he is working every day to make it better. That's all I got to say. And I live on the property. Anytime anybody wants to ask me a question about it, please feel to stop by and ask me. I appreciate you letting me speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else want to speak in favor of the zoning map amendment? Please come forward.
My name's Tommy Watkins. I'm the manager at Midstate Recycling, and I'm speaking on behalf of Fraser Realty. We own land right across from that, and I've been here since '05, and I'm just being honest with you. I honestly didn't know there was an old house back there till they started cleaning things up and changing it, and it really has made a big difference, and I'm all for the zone change, no opposition at all, and I think it's a great thing. And thank y'all for your time. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to speak in favor of the zoning map amendment? Please state your name and address, sir.
I'm Barry Welty. I'm with Caverndale Farms. We are farming LMD Holdings out there, and we will be providing the grain for the distillery. So this is very important to get this plant changed so he can get that distillery going and you know, set this thing in. I just hope I can live long enough to see what all Francesco's going to do with the plans that he's talked about. And definitely that house has been forefront of any discussions that we've gone out there and talked to him about and what he's doing. So that thing will be made very proud. It didn't get in this condition since Francesco's had it. This has happened over a long period of time. And hopefully he's going to correct that and get that thing back in condition once he gets everything going to make sure, because it's going to be a focal point of having the tourism that he's going to have in his little community there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in favor of the zoning map amendment? All right, not seeing anyone. Would anyone want to speak in opposition to the zoning map amendment? Please come forward and state your name. All right, seeing no opposition, is there any other questions that the commission wants to ask before we close the public hearing? Okay, this time we'll close the public hearing for discussion.
Well, we may need some help from Henry here on how to phrase the motion, but I would make a motion that we approve rezoning the 2.836 acres from agriculture to light industrial, including the proposed development conditions in addition to the one that Sally offered, which is that you would continue to leave the house in place and continue to do everything you can to save it and not disturb the house with the construction that you're doing with the distillery and that type of thing. So the house could still potentially be saved, it's still there. And then whatever we need to add, Henry, I guess, to be the fact that we're compatible with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan and consistent with the 2019 Flume Amendment to reclassify the property at the time from low-density residential to light industrial or IBD. And so, whatever else we need to put in to be legally correct.
Mr. Manning, I think you've covered it. I took the time to read in the justifications from the most recent prior zone map amendment. And if the commission's comfortable, we can just incorporate those by reference into this motion. And I think those stand as justifications for an approval motion.
That doesn't make it any different than what it had on the original property being zoned into IPD? Are we adopting, the existing property had the comments relative to the house and protecting it in there, didn't it?
The condition, what I'm referring to that I previously read were the justifications that show conformity with the comprehensive plan, the statement of what
Yes.
goals and objectives are being
Yes.
met. I don't read those as committing the developer to any particular preconditions or requirements on their use going forward. I do have a statement on that. Maybe I'll say that and then you respond to what I'm throwing out there. But I hear differing sentiments from the commission about the house and what should or should not be imposed upon the developer. I owe it to you to say that a statement of intent about what you intend to do with the house presents a bit of an enforcement problem because it's just kind of nebulous. How can we hold them to having had good efforts or intent or not? I think that's difficult for zoning staff. However, sometimes I think that symbolic gestures are merited, and where this has been a subject of much discussion, a statement of intent might be just to demonstrate that we have brought this up, we've raised it to them, we've heard their testimony about what efforts they've taken, and it might be the best we can do. I take note of Mr. Froberger's comments that this presentation was geared towards building a distillery, and that's what he thought needed to be included in it. Well taken. I would just say to you, Mr. Froberger, that bringing up the house owes to the fact that we are sending a recommendation along to the city commission. We know that the house has been a subject of discussion there, and we just want to make sure that was part of the record so that they can act upon that or not and have that available to them.
I guess that's where I was coming from. The city commissioner is very aware of this situation on the house. They pressed it much more than we did in times past. It's important that we make sure we understand whether it's part of this change or whether it isn't. But I'm not sure that it requires us to add a comment in there beyond what's already been said before, because we are just talking about 2.8 acres of property that you have on here. So my questions were around when you do construction work on there, you're so close, 100 feet is nothing in construction area with large equipment. Does it create a secondary unknown possible damage? And they'll do the right thing. They've already got it fenced around the house itself. I heard that being discussed. Is there really a need to present that part of the conversation in the motion or in acceptance of this particular request? I'm not sure it is. I would tend to be, that's addressed separately. We had a conversation on here. We understand what it is, but my suggestion is don't put anything relative to the house. Approve the motion to do this just on this property merit over to the IP. And there's various good reasons why that one should happen. It's sort of what you're saying, Henry, I believe, because the comprehensive plan, it does meet that. It also meets the original goals and objectives that was part of the original property that was converted to IBD. They really are just adding more acreage.
Mr. Collier, if I hear you, Mr. Manna made a motion that referred to compliance with the flume, adopting the August 2021 justifications, adopting the proposed development conditions that were part of this application, and you're asking that he strike from his motion any commitments about the house because you feel that discussion has revealed that that commitment exists and you don't want to attach it as part of the motion. Is that correct?
I do.
Mr. Manning, does it have,
Yeah, so can you tell me exactly what we would put in there?
your motion would then just be?
Just the part relative to the house. not the-
Nothing.
Not the whole thing
Yeah,
necessarily.
I think Mr. Collier is proposing to put nothing in the motion about that relative to the house because he thinks the discussion has already revealed the requisite intent to preserve.
Oh, so to put nothing in there about the house?
It's no different than what we had before.
I
That is
can't
true.
understand with your mask on.
I agree that it is not anything different, but we have discussed what is the hope related to the house. What I wanted to know was, has this, could they say that making this change is not with the desire of pulling the house down? And they said, yeah, that's true. I agree with them.
I think it would just be modifying the proposed conditions to add a fourth one that basically said that they're assuring us that the construction they're going to be making on this 2.8 some acres to put in the distillery and perhaps the chocolate factory or whatever else might be going in there won't disturb the existing home or prevent it from possibly being rebuilt in the future. I mean, that's, yeah, which are,
I do have my concern, which is what Henry Smith mentioned. Intents are hard to, what is the impact if you don't do the intent? It's hard to judge an intention. It's hard to decide whether you've had an issue or whether you didn't. So what's the value of putting it in?
You can say that as far as value not putting it in, because you're trusting the intent on the other side of the coin, so.
Yes, I think you're right.
I mean, I think as Henry said, obviously, I mean, there's some history with this. Our previous zone change was overturned. I mean, that's, the city made it clear that they had issues. So I don't think it's out of the ordinary for us to address those previous issues in any further zone change that comes before us in that property, whether it's 1 acre, 2 acres, or 100 acres.
I think the point is the door is still open to fix the house. This doesn't close that door.
What did they rejected ours? I don't recall that. So.
It had nothing to do with the house. It's all over an easement or an area that we wouldn't develop for a proposed road that may come through at some point. There may have been some ulterior motive regarding the house, but the road is what they wanted, and that's what changed from what we gave.
There was certainly discussion, just like there's been discussion today.
Every day, I mean, since day one, there's been discussion about the house, so that's
Well,
not.
I mean, I think, and you all bring that house up quite a bit too, so I don't think it's asking too much. The effort and verbalization that you're putting forth on protecting that house, why not just put it in writing? So I don't think what Sally's asking is, and you did agree to it, so I don't think it's out of the ordinary just to ask that as I understand it, any construction that you're gonna do going forward with the distillery that's gonna be in extremely close proximity to the house, that it be protected and not come back and say, well, because we're doing the distillery, we have to demolish the house. Do what we.
Well, you have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, we have a
which
motion on the
includes
floor.
that. We
So
include-
somebody can choose to second it or not.
We got a motion from Commissioner Manning, we have a second from Commissioner Griffin. The original motion is what we're.
That's correct.
Well, the one that, yeah, that
Just
Larry,
has an intent,
that includes,
keeps the intent.
Right.
yeah.
And that's-
The original motion is what's on the table, it hasn't been amended. So we have a motion, we have a second. You want to read the motion again, Henry, please?
The motion is to recommend approval of this zone map amendment. It conforms with the comprehensive plan in that it matches the future land use map and is supported by the same justifications that supported the August 2021 zone map amendment. We incorporate the applicant's proposed development conditions. We attach a statement of intent that the zone map amendment and the proposed development comes with no intent to demolish the house, and that the development plan includes no current plan to remove the house during construction of the distillery.
That's the motion. So, all in favor of the motion as stated, please raise your hand. All opposed? So noted. Motion passes. Good. Thank you, gentlemen. Good luck to you.
Yeah, well,
Next item is, National Housing Associates, Inc., file for future land use map amendment on a tract of land containing 6918 located at 20 map amendments from low density residential to moderate density residential. Please state your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Wayne Kohler, President of National Housing Associates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. With me here today is architect Jim Burris and engineer Kendall Wise. We are here today to request a flume amendment for the parcel outlined in the application. It is my understanding the land use categories shown on the flume are influenced primarily by two factors. One, transportation accessibility, and two, adjacent existing land use. The property fronts on Main Street, so accessibility is not a factor for residential land development. Public sewer and water service are available and accessible on the property. The adjacent existing land use matches the proposed land use category of the request. The existing zone of the subject property, Zone RM2, matches the land use category of the request. The compatibility study that was included in the application suggests that the proposed use of the subject property is appropriate, compatible, and complementary to the existing neighborhood. The only reason for the requested change is to ultimately zone the property RM3, which allows attached multifamily units or 3 to 8 units per building. The project that we are proposing will include only 40 units on 10 acres, which is a density of 4 units per acre, matching the existing category. When it comes to the buildings, our development, we believe will be 6 buildings with 6 units per building and 1 building with 4 units. As you know, Zone RM3 allows for 8 units per building, so we will have smaller buildings than what would be allowed. And from a density standpoint, it allows up to 16 units per acre. We're only looking at 4 units per acre. That'd be great. Yeah, we did bring some other exhibits and all for you.
My name's Kendall Wise from Vantage Engineering, and we weren't certain of what you would have in your packets, so I just made some exhibits of the flume map and cited where our property is on that map. And at the bottom, I also made a copy from the comprehensive plan with the definition of what low-density residential category is, as well as moderate density residential. So the ask in this application is that we change this property from low-density residential on the future land use map to moderate density future land use, or moderate density residential.
We ended up with this in our packet, which is similar to what you're
Very
talking about
similar.
there. And we have a larger hatch image of the actual area. While we're doing that, I had a question relative to, is this the 10 acres total we're looking at?
Yes, the 10 acres total.
But what you described then is the first phase of that 10 acres.
Right, that's what we're looking at for
So
the
you
first phase is the 40. And then if we're successful in the development, we would look at, in the future, potentially doing additional acre, housing on it.
So this map just shows you, and
Thank you.
as Mr. Collier showed me, you have a copy of a future land use map already, but we just outlined where our property is, where adjacent to existing moderate density residential land use. And then, in addition to that, we have this item on your agenda is not the zone change, but I think that just looking at the existing zone of the property and understanding what can be done in the existing zone,
Thank you.
it helps you understand that the existing zone is actually can be used as a moderate density residential land use, just by way of what is allowed to be constructed there.
Is in the second phase area, will it remain as a field like it is now?
Yes.
So it's not going to be improved?
No,
with any
we're not going to
gravels or
improve. We'll just keep it bush
blacktop?
whacked and everything.
Okay. The playground isn't that far, or a park isn't that far away, but that's certainly, the second phase area almost looks like a park.
Right.
Yeah, so on page 2 and on page 3 of that last handout that I gave you, which the first page shows the zone map, it shows the properties currently zoned RM2. And page 2 goes on to describe which uses and describe what the differences are between RM2 and the zone we're going to ask for in just a few minutes, which is RM3. And again, even RM2 can be developed in such a way that it's considered moderate density, the way things are right now. I mean, it allows 8.7 units per acre, the way the RM2 zone does. So anyway, we have also some renderings and things from Jim Burris, the architect. I'll go ahead and give you those just so that you have an understanding of what Wayne's project looks like.
Yeah, because we're proposing that we'll be building garden-style 1- and 2-bedroom apartments with attached one-car garages.
This is where you're going to be someday, Steve. This is where you're going to be someday. Walker Trail.
That's a pretty flat piece of property, isn't it?
There is a decent slope on it,
Oh, is there a
because
slope?
our original design had the buildings along East Main Street and then on Limestone Way, those buildings that butt up against each other were actually closer.
Oh.
And then when Kendall took a look at it, he said either you're going to have to put in a retaining wall or you're going to have to,
Give it a longer slope.
yeah, longer
Oh.
slope. And so that's why, we just lengthened it and all, and now taking 6.4 acres for the first phase, where our original was more like 5.4 acres. It was
Yeah.
almost trying to do 5 acres and 5 acres.
Yeah, all I did was the East Main Street, look at it, it's hard to tell.
Yes,
when you
yeah,
look back
but
10 acres.
there is a decent slope, so when you look at the water runoff and everything, I mean, there is no standing water on that property and all, and then obviously with the engineer, everything would be sloped correctly then for drainage and all.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, whether there was space for sanitation, flood runoff, water runoff, but it's probably not necessary.
We'll obviously incorporate the stormwater detention design and things into our development plan
Well, not
when that
to-
time
yeah,
comes.
not to a
But
large
yes, we've
scale.
considered it and thought about it and made plans for it.
Mr. Chairman, if I might. Mr. Kohler, the burden before you at this phase for amending the future land use map amendment is to show compatibility with surrounding development. And I think your submission from Vote Strategic Insights, which was attached to the zone map amendment application, goes to some length to support that, talks about building height, materials, intensity of use, all our criteria. The other question before us is whether your proposed development will exceed capacity of infrastructure and facilities. Would you or your engineer have anything to say about that? Roads, water, sewer? Can you give us some assurance that what you're proposing won't exceed capacity of
No.
infrastructure?
As far as sanitary sewer, the city has the East Main Pump Station, which is on the farm adjacent to us. All of the sewage along Main Street drains past our property and onto that pump station. So there's a huge trunk sewer in the street there right in front of us. I mean, there's capacity as far as the sanitary sewer goes. The water main, there's a 6-inch water main that's in front to the end of the street. We'll be extending it further because the property is wider than the public street that's there. So we'll be extending public street with this project. We'll be extending the water main to the end of the public street so that future development can take off with it. Streets, I mean, the streets, there's a public street, as I said already, to our property that's been built to city standards, and it will be extended, you know, similar cross-section, street cross-section, and
I agree that these details seem more suited to a zone map amendment discussion, but it's what's laid out in our comp plan for the way that we amend the flume that we have to ask these questions.
Anything further? Any other questions to ask? Okay. Thank you, sir. Anything further to say?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
It is a public hearing, so we ask if anyone wants to speak in favor.
Thank you, Ken.
This map amendment request, please come forward. Seeing none, if anyone wants to speak in opposition, please come forward. Seeing none. Close the public hearing for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't find anything in it to be an issue or concern for what they're asking to do. It's just fine.
So we have a motion.
If this committee is ready to do that. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposed future land use map. I don't think there's any conditions, is there?
We have a motion to approve the land use map amendment. We have a second. I'll second. We have a second.
If I might jump in, I think now is not the appropriate time for conditions. I think that's zone map amendment.
That's correct.
Fair, and you might make mention in your motion if the second agrees that we've met the standards set out in our comp plan, that they've demonstrated compatibility and given assurance about capacity of infrastructure.
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to include those items in here. Please do.
So we have a motion, and we have a second, for the application for future land use map amendment. All in favor of the motion? Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Item number 3, National Housing Association has filed for zoning map amendment on a tract of land containing 10.69 acres located 0 Main Street, 2007, requested zoning change from two-family residential RM2 to multifamily residential RM3. Please come forward, state your name.
Yes, my name is Wayne Kohler with President of National Housing Associates, a 501c3 organization. As a little background, we are the ones that were responsible for the redevelopment of the Goodall building on Stanford Avenue. And just to let you know that we've maintained 98% occupancy there with a waiting list and all. And we like to feel that we've been a very good community partner here in Danville with that development and all, since we took a very large historic warehouse and redevelop it into a very economical apartment community and all. And even since we finished the development of it, we've added the sign out front, and we tried to really keep that property up. And so, with this proposed change, for the East Main Street parcel from RM2 to RM3, we again continue to want to be a very good community partner here in Danville and provide housing for residents and all. Our proposal is going to be that it will be senior housing, mostly 34 of the 40 units will be deemed for senior housing, ages 55 and older. And so we also had a market study done, and there is very steep demand for senior housing in Boyle County. There is a sister, you could say a sister property to this over in Harrodsburg. It's kind of behind the Kroger's Walmart facility there, which is again a 1 and 2 bedroom garden style apartments with 1-car garage. And I know the developer of that, and I've talked to him. They have 32 units there, and they are 100% occupied with a 40-person waiting list on it. And so when our market study was doing their job and looking at the primary market area for this development, he said, really, you are branching out. They were originally looking pretty much at Boyle County, but he says you will be drawing from surrounding counties and all too for this. And so they really see a steep demand for more senior housing here in Boyle County. And so we ask that we can go from RM2 to RM3 to allow us to have, again, 6 buildings of 6 units per building, and then 1 building with 4 units in that. And obviously with RM3, you're allowed up to 8. We're going to keep the density low, again, at only 4 units per acre. We're not looking for high density at all. These are, again, garden style, 1-story, and all. The adjacent properties have 2-story townhouse style. And I even got a phone call from the owner of the Transylvania Heights apartments or townhomes. And I was expecting to say that he was going to be in opposition of it. And he says, no, I fully support your development of this. He says, we do need more housing. We're full. And his is more garden or townhouse style. And what we'd be proposing is garden style, 1-floor apartments.
Are there conditions that are with this zone change request?
Yeah, conditions listed on your application, so.
It's on page 2 of the application for zoning map amendments, proposed zone change conditions. Talks about an attached general development plan. And with regard to that, Kendall, is that this drawing that's marked as schematic site development plan?
Oh,
Is that a commitment under the conditions? Yeah, I think so. Speaks to construction materials. Yeah.
Whenever you see that 8, no more than 8 per acre, I think that's what the zone allows.
That's what the zone allowed, but that's not
So
necessarily.
That's really not a new condition, that's just a condition of the zone.
Oh, that's really not a condition.
See, these.
Oh, that's right here.
These
Yes.
items would be conditions that you'd be adding. So if you want to read those.
Yes, I will do that. Yes, so what we would be committing to in all two is that, we would have no more than 8 units. Our proposed is that we're going to be looking at 4 units, but again, as we're finalizing the plan and everything, we would definitely commit to no more than 8, which is again half of what would be allowed under RM3. Building construction materials, we're looking at, all natural materials, so we'd be utilizing brick, hardy board, the potential for vinyl, which would be more in the soffit area and stuff. Obviously, you can't put hardy board up in the soffits and also, but when you're looking at the main area of it, brick, stone, hardy board, on that, it would be asphalt shingles and would be stick-built. There will be a community building that will include the site manager's office and on-site maintenance. We'd obviously be extending the eastern edge of East Main Street to the edge of the property, and we would be installing sidewalks along East Main on our property. Now, it's our understanding that for the road extension that we're supposed to put sidewalks on the other side of East Main, which is just a field. There is zero housing, commercial use, nothing on the other side of East Main. And so we would be asking that we would not be required to put a sidewalk on the other side of the street of East Main, which would be a little bit onerous, we feel, to us because of construction costs, as you all know, have gone through the roof. And we need to come in within budget as much as possible on this.
Do you own that property?
No, we do not own that property. That is still owned by Ryan Montgomery's
Okay.
group. And
I didn't
also,
think you did.
we would take care of the sidewalk on our parcel that we would be buying from him, but we don't believe we should be required to put the sidewalk on the other side of the street because there really would be no use. I'm sorry? Right. But I think the way our architect and all we were reading, if we extend the road, we would be required to put sidewalks on both sides of the street.
I'm guessing.
I think that's in the subregs. I think it's something that will be addressed at the site development plan phase, which they'll
Oh.
have to address. And at that point, in order for us to sign off on that site development plan, we'll need to have some confirmation from the city engineer that they're giving you exemption from that sidewalk requirement.
Okay. At least we want to state it, okay?
Just to clarify for the record, I'm confused. Multifamily residential district, RM3. And that's our request.
Mhm.
For us, correct?
Correct.
It states that, developments of up to 8 units in a single building.
You're right. Correct. We're doing 6.
Right, but you previously said that was half of what the 8 was half. You're requesting 8 because it's here in your conditions. So
Right.
you're requesting 8. You said 8 was half of what you were allowed under the one-family district RM3, but actually 8 is the maximum that you're allowed.
But I was asking for number of units per acre to be no more than 8, not per building. I'm sorry, because I thought the RM3 is units per acre is 16.
He was talking moderate density rather than the actual.
Yes, I'm sorry if I did not clarify that well enough, is that, yeah, my understanding is, yes, yeah, RM3 is 16 units per acre. We're going to commit to no more than 8 units per acre. And then we're looking at 6-unit buildings. Yeah.
And you do have one of your buildings is the 4 units, so.
Yes, one is 4 because of 40 units
that's just
doesn't
how-
divide
yeah,
by
that's-
6.
That's how it fits, yeah, you gotta get it count.
Yes.
Any other questions for that? This is just more out of curiosity, but what is the square footage, living square footage of these units about? Is it like 800, 1,000 square feet?
We were looking at the one bedrooms, I believe, were 850, and then the 2 bedrooms would be about 1050. And that's not including the garage. And we're trying to get the garage just to be a little bit extended in the back for more storage, because as we know, people have stuff, and people need storage
And you know.
for their stuff.
And having been to a lot of these complexes over the decades, when visitors come in, the parking becomes, the driveway is only so long.
Exactly, and so we did add on the map, you can see there
Yeah.
is extra parking, so we are in compliance with the zoning requirements for total
Exactly.
parking on that.
Yeah, I see that. I wanted to
Yeah.
point it out because that's a good point.
Yeah. And we're not counting parking on East Main Street, which
No,
I
you did
guess would be allowed, and it's a dead-end street,
Yeah.
so. It's in between the buildings.
There it is.
Yeah, on Limestone Way, there's 3 spots on each side of the road in between the 2 buildings.
Yeah,
And then at the community building, we're gonna have additional parking. And then we're showing up for gardens for the seniors and all too, that will be a community garden. And then the gazebo, and then the maintenance, exterior maintenance building with hopefully, garden, tools, a tool shed for the community garden and all too. But with this development too, we will be able to share our manager who is at Goodall with Limestone Village along with maintenance, because right now, we have 2.5 days of our manager at Goodall, and then she goes to another property. I think it's in Lancaster, is her second property for Winterwood Management Company, which is one of the largest management companies here in Kentucky. And then the same thing with our maintenance person. So now, with this development, we could keep our manager here in Danville managing both properties, and it's actually only a 1.5 miles apart from each other. So from a convenience standpoint, from a maintenance standpoint, each property will be pretty much feel like they have a manager and a maintenance person there 5 days a week. So the economy of scale would be great for us. Thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing, so I have to ask if anybody wants to speak in favor of the zoning change. Please come forward. I'll do a crowd thing. Anyone want to speak in opposition, please come forward. Seeing none, public hearings.
Are you ready to make a motion? I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposed zoning map amendment requesting here. It's consistent with our future land use map general objectives we have. It's consistent, from what I can tell, goals and objectives we might have. And I think the request has demonstrated that the current zoning designation needs to change to accommodate the growth that we want to have.
We have a motion. Collier, second.
Commissioner Collier, Ms. Davenport, if I might add some language to this, and you tell me whether or not you approve, specifically with regard to goals and objectives, that the proposed development meets the housing goal of providing an adequate supply of decent, safe, and sanitary housing for citizens of all income levels, that it follows the objectives to encourage and support efforts to construct and maintain affordable housing for elderly, handicapped, low-income, and other disadvantaged persons, as well as the objective to provide sufficient acres of developable land zoned for residential uses to meet housing demands of all types. Also, make note of the fact that a site development plan is required, and that in submitting that site development plan, the developer will comply with the subdivision regulation standards, except where the city engineer signs off on divergence from those standards. That addresses the sidewalk question, I think.
Yes. Thank you. I agree with those.
All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Motion passes. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good luck to you. Thank you.
I do have a question. Are you setting a limit for the seniors there, I mean, the age limit?
Age limit
Is it
is,
strictly for seniors living?
yes, well, we're gonna be,
Yeah,
yeah, we'll be 55 and
okay.
over.
No pool?
No pool, sorry. No pool.
You should maybe put that in some.
I should have.
Oh, my gosh.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
New business, advisory committee report. We have a report, budget committee report, personnel committee report. I think this time, we'd like to go into closed session, to discuss personnel.
Well, we need a motion to that effect, so.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Motion passes.
we had a motion to reenter open session, passed, and noting having taken no action in closed session discussing appointment of personnel. We've done that motion, that, yeah. There's the issue of signing checks and it, where we need, or, was it plats? Was that the issue?
Plats we've already covered, but we do need additional signatures for checks.
Okay, it was checks, all right.
Jeffrey or Jim, if one cannot be, we need a backup, basically. For signature purposes on the account.
And we're looking for a vote of this body to authorize that so we can demonstrate that as official action, giving him authorization. So if we have a motion to authorize Commissioner Manning to sign checks.
Motion, second, all in favor? I guess we should discuss that.
We should ask Terry if he wants to discuss it.
We had an abstention and 5 yes. This just gets deeper, deeper, deeper. And just go up to about here.
That's why we put you on the top row.
All right, any announcements? No announcements. We need so move, motion to adjourn. Our next meeting will be August 21st, August 24th, 2022.
I make a motion to close the meeting.
We have a